It's Monday, August 19th, and you are listening to a brand new episode of the Energy is Love podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing and sharing and all that cool stuff. I guess it's cool. It is cool. Thank you for doing all of those things. The one thing that you have to do as a listener of this podcast is the only thing that we require of you. It's the only thing that we ask, and that is to just simply share it. Tell somebody else about this podcast so that they can listen as well. And then they tell somebody, and then they tell somebody, and then maybe it stops there. No. No, it doesn't. It keeps going. And the podcast keeps going and growing. So that's awesome. energieslovepodcast.com. Easiest way to find all the information. Also, if you go to that website right now, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom and throw us some cash. We have it set up now through PayPal where you can donate however much you'd like, whether it's a one-time thing or reoccurring each and every month. But if you want to support the podcast a little bit more than just telling somebody else about it, you can send us some money and we will buy the podcasting stuff. No, but it would mean a lot because like anything else in the world, it does take a little bit of time and energy and money to keep this thing going. So before we get going with the episode and who our guest is this week, go to bravemendare.com. At bravemendare.com, you can learn all about what Brave Men Dare is and what it's about, which essentially is helping men slow down. First and foremost, that's it. Just slow down. Like hold your horses. And then once men have slowed down, we help them connect with themselves, connect with each other, open up to all sorts of possibilities. And we have our fall experience coming up in October. So there's just about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks left in August, which is your opportunity to get one of the few spots that we have left at the event for a discounted price. So early bird pricing for the fall Brave Men Dare experience is ending at the end of August. Like I said, we have just a few spots left, and if you want one of them, now is the time to do it. So you can save a little bit of cash. It's going to be an amazing event where we bring together a group of men in the mountains of Utah. It's going to be held at a beautiful lodge. We're going to be eating incredible food. We're also going to be doing some cold immersion, some ice baths, some breath work, all sorts of different things with the sole purpose of helping you, the man that shows up, the man that really wants some help, to really find out what it's all about. And I'm not talking about the experience or about brave men, but about life. Really, and what we want. What do you want? Let us help you. Come to the experience, check it out. If you have questions about it, maybe you're a little nervous, please reach out. Happy to chat with you. Maybe you really want to go, but the money's the issue, which we all totally get and understand. Reach out still. Let's see if we can work something out. bravemendare.com. Go sign up for that fall experience. Come enjoy the mountains of Utah and connect to yourself. So on this episode, Stephanie and I sat down with Zoe, the Peacemaker. That's not his real name, in case you were wondering. His real name is Klimowicz, I believe. I should have asked you, Zoe, how you pronounce your name completely, and I apologize. But Zoe's a stud. We've known Zoe for several years. We used to run in the same circles of energy work and energy healing and events and all that kind of stuff. Zoe is the CEO and founder of Vibe Bottle, which are these beautiful, beautiful glass water bottles, both like half gallons, 20 ounce. I mean, they've got a huge variety of jars and jugs, and all of them have beautiful sacred geometry inlaid and on them. We love our Vibe bottles. We've had them for like several years, and like we legit use them every single day. But Zoe came out to the house and we threw them in the ice, which is going to become kind of like the new standard. We really, really love it. And if you're going to be a guest on the podcast, most likely you're going to be in the ice at some point. And I think he had a good experience. It really seemed like it hit him really in a good way. But we discussed that a little bit during the episode. I also posed some of those really good challenging questions about what we need to be doing as fathers and as men and how we can show up better in today's world. So it got real quick, which was wonderful. Zoe did a great job of showing up and sharing some of his wisdom and some of his energy. But it's a great episode. You will enjoy it, I promise. You will learn something, I hope, and you will be entertained, to say the least. Go check out vibebottle.com. You can learn more about their company and what they do. He's got a bunch of different things that he does as well. Like Zoe's one of those guys that multitasks at a crazy level. Thank you, Zoe. And everybody sit back and relax, because here we go with another wonderful episode of the Energy is Love podcast with our guest, Zoe the Peacemaker. Here we go.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is Love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is Love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
You're such a dork.
I thought it was you. And then you stopped doing it and I could still hear the little click. I don't know what the little click is. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's a nice windy day. That's okay, though.
I was like, I can hear that. Stop.
We usually like to record outside.
Oh.
Because it's like, I mean, it's so much better, right?
Ambience.
Yeah, it's just so much nicer to be outside, but it's too windy today. All we would hear is the wind blowing in the microphone.
You need like 4 wind socks, like layers to make it work.
So my favorite part of the ice is this part right now, where it's like 20 minutes afterwards, and the way my body feels afterwards. So how does your body feel like right now?
Oh man, I can't. It's hard to put in words. I could only probably compare it to other experiences.
Go ahead.
Oh,
yeah. What are you feeling in your body right now?
Well, okay, so presently speaking, I can tell that a lot of any aches and pains I had are gone. And so that immediately my blood pressure is down. I'm happy, I'm relaxed, even my face is relaxed. You know, sometimes in guided meditations, they'll be like, relax your jaw. And not until they say that, do you realize you were like clenching it, or your face, like our face, you know, interacting with people all day. It's like, we're constantly moving it around, and it's like I'm comfortable with just like sitting here kind of half zombied. I'm okay with it. Like, I'm just gonna do the rest of this like this. I'm gonna drift in and out. If you guys are cool, just take my spot when I pass out.
Do you feel like the tingly throughout
hot?
your body?
That more happened about, I'd say, 10 minutes after I got out.
Yeah.
After the numbness subsided, it was just like this burst of tingling and heat. And it was so nice to feel my body, even though it's 90 degrees outside, my body was creating more heat than that. And I was like, such a stark difference between the ice, being in the ice. And of course, every minute of the ice is a new dimension of experience. You know, it's not just like, in the ice, out of the ice, you know, doesn't hurt. It's like level 1, fear and pain, level 2, level 3, different parts of my body, different parts of my mind showing up, different parts of my life. All of that seemed to like phase in and out, and it became more of almost, I would say, a hallucinogenic experience more than a physical. The physical lasted about a minute, and then boom, it was like I could see stuff. Yeah. A lot of energetic connections and things. And then of course, trying to stay grounded, trying to breathe, remembering to breathe through it and not try to clench up too much, you know, like the way I'd explain how I feel right now is like snowboarding for me was one of the most blissful times of my life, because I was in really good shape. I was free. Like literally I'd left my house, sold all my stuff, and moved into a van, and I was snowboarding for almost 2 years all over the West Coast, and I had no responsibilities. And so I went from that regular everyday freedom to on the hill, where I was like, I'm out in nature, which is like camping is great, but I'm also going as fast as an Indy car. So you have this bliss and all that adrenaline. And then after the day is over and you haven't gotten hurt, you literally went up, jumped off a bunch of cliffs, did a bunch of stupid stuff, landed it, rode away cool, and then you walk home in one piece. That's bliss. To have all that risk and have like all that, you know, potential injury and death. You know, it's not exaggerating. It's like I watch lots of my friends, bless their hearts, get hurt or almost die or get hospitalized or get paralyzed, and I never put me into this. I never allowed it to put me into this space of like, oh, I'm indestructible. I always used it as a humbling lesson. I was like, that could have been me. And if I don't come to this mountain with respect, it's like, that's going to be me. So I always came to the hill, and I used to catch a lot of crap for this. But I was always coming to the hill, and I would like greet it. I'd come to the mountain and be like, hello, thanks for having me. Please don't kill me today. I'm going to do my best to respect you, which is like, you don't litter, you don't go up there with arrogance. I mean, there's so much power. I mean, you already have nature, right? You have nature there. And then you have water, and water is liquid crystal, right? And snow is crystals. It's just crystals, which hold memory and energy. And then you have like entities, right? You have spirits that live in the woods, whether it's fairies or allies or whatever you want to call them, all the different types of shamanism. They have different ways of putting that. And then the mountain itself, if you believe in that, it's like it has a spirit. The mountain itself has its own consciousness and entity. And for me, it was like greeting an elephant. And it's like, you could crush me with one blow, but I'm going to be cool with you. You're going to be cool with me. We're cool. And it's like, okay, yeah. So
how long ago was that?
That's how I had basically safe passage through the most dangerous part of my life. So I started skiing when I was 7 in Canada. I skied till I was 15. We moved to Montana. So I was, born and raised in the coldest place in the world. Montana was kind of cold, but not as bad. And I literally went snowboarding one day. And at the end of that day, I had gotten it. And within 10 minutes of my first like toe carve, I was like, this is all I want to do with my life. It was it. I was hooked like that. Wow. And almost immediately after, I dropped out of school. My mom tried to put me in community college, and I wanted to. So I finished my GED. I went to community college. I started taking programming when I was like 16. But that bug had really bit me. So I took my Pell Grant, bought my first snowboard, came to Park City, Utah for a weekend, right? I was 17 years old. Never went home.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you moved from Canada when you were 15?
Yeah, 14.
14. What part of Canada did you grow up in?
Calgary, Alberta. Beautiful. I miss it.
I don't know if I knew that about you or not. I don't know if I knew that you were from Canada.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah, I don't think I did.
Because I don't act Canadian. I've been here so long, and many times on my day-to-day basis, I speak so crassly that people are like, he's not polite enough. But
Canadians are the nicest. Like, it's such a stereotype, but they really, really are.
Yeah.
I've only ever met like one really shitty Canadian person.
Yeah, he's probably having a bad day.
It was a flight attendant.
Okay.
I was flying and I was getting on the plane. So you're like going down and, you have to see the ticket counter and whatever like that and then get on the plane. And I was listening to my music and I had my headphones on, and she was like adamant that I needed to take my headphones off. So I just like popped in ear free so I could listen to whatever she had to say to me. And she was like, no, she was so pissed off and had like the bitchiest look on her face. And I had to like physically completely remove my headphones just simply to have my ticket scanned and then get on the plane.
Yeah, see, so she what she did was she probably collectively channeled all the angst of that one plane of everybody in there and then just fired it at you.
I think she was just a bitch.
And that's as shitty as they get. Yeah.
I think she's been a flight attendant for 20 years and hates her job and just had enough. Yeah.
And ever since you could, and ever since they made the rule that you can't smoke on the airplane, she's just been pissed.
Exactly.
Like, I'm taking this out on you.
She hates Americans.
American. Yeah.
Baby, we're going to have to change the podcast.
Is it to complain about TSA people?
It's definitely not to complain about PSA. Because Zoe, you're the third person that we've had come over, get in the ice, and then podcast.
Dude.
So is that our new way of doing it every time?
So
yeah.
You're doing the icy version of Hot Ones. Do you guys ever watch that on YouTube?
Oh, where they do like the hot wings? Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that. I'll have to ask Asher.
So the best way that the guy that hosts it, how he explains it is all of these guests they have are, they're on this PR flight path. So they just kind of go through all of them, motions when they go do interviews. So they had to find a creative way to knock them off their center.
Nice.
Yeah, that's like the ice thing. It knocked me right out of my sort of, I was explaining to Craig before, my city fog. Like I just live in the city. I work 12, 15 hours a day. I've been on the same project for forever. And it's just like so easy to get locked into that thing. And then you get into the ice bath. And then, Doctor Strange style, it knocks your soul out of your body for a minute. And then all of a sudden you have this whole new perspective on stuff. Like,
oh, I like that.
It's a good refresher.
You got something.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I think we just need to have everybody come over and do the ice before they get on the podcast.
I like it. Mm-hmm. I don't know where Angel's going. Can you second? I like it.
Yeah, the ice bucket challenge is nothing on this.
Yeah, it's a different beast for sure. Mm-hmm. I hope you keep practice it in some way. Like I said, just do the cold shower thing. It's the easiest way to just kind of start implementing it every day.
I'm pretty hardcore about stuff.
Yeah.
If I get onto something, I'm pretty much like, you have a pit bull. Like if you gave her a steak, would you ever get it out of her mouth?
I think we would. She's pretty tender. She's pretty. She'd look at you like, "Oh, can I have a back?"
But that's the boxer side, right?
Maybe
the DNA of the pit bull's like, this is mine now, and you're never getting this. So yeah. So if I lock into something, I tend to I'll be like, I'm gonna challenge myself to ice bath every day. It's not necessarily balanced or healthy, but that's just how I do shit.
I can definitely relate.
Oh my goodness!
I'm serious. I mean, I'll invest in some ice, and I want to try it because it's so beneficial. I mean, immediately, and it's not like I love the gym, but it's like such a process to go to the gym. I mean, you're looking. It takes me 2 hours between getting ready, geared up, drive down, go run, go do your HIIT training, go lift. Stretch, drive home. I could literally go from my freezer to a tub in 20-30 minutes, whole round trip, like you said, 30 minutes, right? That I'd be like, okay, and I guarantee I'm going to discover new things about myself.
Yeah that's what we're realizing. We're eventually going to get just a big chest freezer and put it in the garage, and then keep that full of the ice water that we need. But we like using the tub to do it outside, like underneath the tree and in the grass. So I don't want to sit in the ice bath just in our garage, because a lot of guys will get one of those chest freezers and just use that instead of a tub. So they're just breaking the ice up on that and then getting directly into the chest freezer. But we don't have a way to, we can't put it outside because eventually it's going to get covered in snow. So we'd have to keep it in the garage. So my plan is we're going to get one of those, and that's just going to be our holding tank for the water. And then I'm going to pump it from that to the tub when we're ready to dip, and then pump it back into the chest freezer.
How many people have you had come out do this?
You're the third person that we've had at least.
Okay.
I mean, you're not we've had our buddy Steven, who's been on the podcast a bunch. He's the guy that's doing the Wim Hof thing. He's been out here a handful of times doing it. We've had other people, we had he came out and led a whole class here and did a workshop here. So we had people here doing it then. But as far as people here doing it and then recording on the, talking about it on the podcast, you're the third person. So
yeah. 3 is the magic number.
Yeah. But that's our goal.
Has anybody ever bailed? I'm just I'm out. Yoink.
No, everybody seems to do pretty good. It's totally mental. That's the whole thing, is it's just really about the brain and what it's telling you need to do, instead of just listening to your body, because your body's 100% fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It reminds me of anytime if you've ever done Bikram yoga.
I haven't.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
dude.
no, super. When I say I'm super familiar with it, I'm not familiar because I haven't done it, but I know what you're talking about.
You know the concept.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is you think you're going to die for 90 minutes. I heard there was a 60-minute class, and I was like, oh, I could do that. I was like, I could waltz through that. But those last 30, oh my gosh. Especially being Canadian, I'm used to Arctic conditions, and so to be in a 110-degree room for that long, and then you're doing poses, you're doing 26 classical poses, and you're holding each one, and you're just this lake. You literally have to bring a towel. They're you bring your mat, but you put your towel over it because your mat will become so slippery and that you can't, it won't operate. So that reminded me a lot of like, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. It's okay. Like your ego's just trying to tell you, it's trying to protect you. It's what it does. It's its job. And like going into that heart space and trusting and like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I would definitely recommend a 60-minute first, and this is the only time in my life I've ever worn a Speedo because
You're like,
it's not, there's no other way. You wear anything other than that. You wear swim shorts, anything, like your mobility is hindered, plus the sweat makes it another 10 pounds to carry through this.
It's like
90.
just trying to do it in wet clothes, huh?
Yeah.
so does everybody wear a swim? I've never done it. Does everybody wear a swimsuit in the class?
Basically.
See, I couldn't do it. There's no way I'm going to put a swimsuit on and then bend in those poses. That's not happening. I don't want to see those ankles.
There's the ego again, right? The ego is going to go into, because there's a mirror too. And and you're going to look like into your own eyes, and they're like, look at your third eye. And then like, you're going to look at, there's some poses you're like, I was 220. I'm down to 208 now. And I'm holding, a tree pose like this and stuff. And like my brain's doing the math, and it's just like 208 pounds just on this one ankle, like, and the pain just shoots up your whole body. And then it's like, statistically speaking, like nobody's ever died, and your joints are never like, unless you do something really wrong, the strain or the pressure you put on your joints does not hurt long term. It heals them. Like there's a pose where you have to put your palms straight down like this, and you have to lay on them. Let
me see your hands. I can't see what you're doing.
Like this.
And then you lay on them?
And you lay on your face.
So for those listening, it's arms all the way down, your palms flat, outwards, facing outwards. Yeah. Your
elbows
wrists
into your own stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And you lay like, and then you just like relax, and all your body weight just sets into all these joints. And I'd had a wrist injury from snowboarding, from riding up in Colorado. And I was like, this is terrible. You can't do this. You can't do this. And actually, the first couple of times I had flexibility issues. I couldn't even get into the position. And then I noticed about the third time, not only could I get into the position, but the pain was gone.
What?
Yeah. And to this day, like healed it. Like it was hurt for 2 years. I had a Bikram 3 times, and like it stopped hurting. What's up with that? I don't get it.
It's our body.
Because the doctor's going to tell you no. Right? They're going to be like, no, don't put pressure on your bad joint. Like, let's cut it open and give you some pills. Yoga master's going to be like, yeah, you need to put some strain on that thing. Who are you going to believe? It depends on the listener.
Yeah.
But I would never guess. I'd never guess that yoga actually heals, because you're putting all this pressure on things. You're holding these, these poses. Your arms are shaking and just like sweating. You can feel like, oh, my core is not as strong as I thought, or I'm not as, it's like all your pride starts to go out the window.
Oh, I guess that's the difference between classes and YouTube. I do all my yoga. It's been a little bit, but I get on these really great kicks, and I do like all from YouTube. And I got a little cocky.
Did you know?
A little while ago. Yeah. And I thought, look what I can do. And I stewarded my way through it, and I hurt my back.
Were you doing you were doing crow pose, but like Bruce Lee, 2 fingers?
Right.
And they just went through the floor, and you're like, oh, sorry, floor.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You hurt yourself?
I hurt myself. Yeah, I was doing a handstand, and was working with the bed. I've been trying to practice getting my back bend too. So I was doing, like, they tell you not to go into the banana, but I was, you see poses where they do it. So I had this really beautiful arch going, and I felt so strong. I was holding it. I wasn't shaking. And then just at the bottom of my cervical spine, my thoracic just went, oh. And I was like, oh. And it was one of those where you're not like, oh, am I going to feel that? It was immediate. Like, oh, I messed up. I messed up bad.
It's like, this is on fire.
Yeah, so it took me out for a a bit. And then I've been pretty nervous. You got a Tony
Stark. It was like, contusion detected. And he's like, I detected that too.
Did that too, yep. It was exactly that. And it was nerve-wracking, because when you pull a muscle, when you strain a muscle, you're like, oh, that sucks. But you'll be okay. But this was like, I think I hurt my spine. That scared me a little bit. So I don't know. I need to go to class. I need to go to your place.
When you have that, and what's scary about whether it's a real injury or not, when your brain says so, tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like my brain's like, your week is going to change. Like, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, it goes down the list. Like, you can't pick up the kids from school, you can't go to soccer, you had whatever. That is my fear. It's like all the attachment to the stuff I was going to do. Yeah. And now it's like, I mean, as much as I wanted, you know, maybe the 25-year-old version of myself wanted to sit and watch Netflix all day. But the 40-year version of, you know, 3 kids, 2 companies, a book to write, like, no, like my ego is so attached to my structure that nothing is allowed to interrupt it. You know, that's the fear.
I see that, because it was like, I have to be able to do this. I have to be able to do like all of those things. And so I wonder if that makes it hurt more, just because 100%. You go into wanting to protect it because of all those things. I have to be able to do that.
All the shoulds.
Yeah,
you should do
I have to be strong so I can keep this. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So then I baby it. So maybe I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe I got a little tweak, but I'm like, no. So it's not going to stop everything. Maybe. I don't know. Sorry, I made the chair pop.
And then the ice fixed it.
The ice helped so much. Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah, I'm great now. I'm still way too afraid. I used to have them like pop me all the time, and I've only let them pop, I think, once, and it's still scary because I'm like, wait, my spine, you got to be careful.
I woke up this morning. I've had this weird thing with my foot where, I don't know why we're old people talking about our elements on the podcast. Anyways, when I woke up this morning, but it was like the same thing where I had this weird pain in my foot, and it's been something that has popped up in the last few days just when I step differently, right? Like I step on it kind of weird, and then it's this really sharp pain on the outside of my foot. Yeah. And I felt it this morning just laying in bed when I woke up. So I hadn't put any weight on it. I didn't do anything. And I felt it, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I bet I have diabetes. Because in my head, like, that's the only correlation I have is diabetes.
That's a little fast. That's 0 to 10.
Makes your feet go to shit, and you have feet problems. Oh, no. So that's what I did. Was like, I got diabetes.
There's no way. You guys are keto, right? You've already eliminated that possibility.
But yeah, it was pretty funny.
I think it's so funny. You WebMD'd yourself is what you did.
Oh, don't
You're like type 3.
Yeah, I was like, I think we're going to have to amputate the right one just to save the rest. It's going to be terrible. But
you're like, but there's been advances in technology. I might be able to get a cool robot foot. Like I could actually come out on top. I'm able to jump over stuff now.
Oh my goodness.
I hear you.
That's
kind of the world we're going into.
You don't have to.
We're going into that world. Like there's literally going to be cybernetics in our lifetime. There already are.
Yeah.
Like brain implants, helping people see and hear.
The prosthetic that they can move with their brain, right?
Not
like
amazing.
the opening and closing of the hand,
and then
all
Elon
that kind
Musk,
of jazz.
he's doing Neuralink.
I love
so
that
there's
stuff.
no way they're not gonna be like you're frozen from the neck down. We're gonna give you this dope like exoskeleton, and not only are you gonna be able to walk, but you're gonna be our greatest soldier ever. You know,
that's crazy.
You're gonna be Captain America.
It's coming.
It is. You know, we got kids in this world.
So I want to ask you.
We're gonna have to prepare our kids for the crap we grew up thinking was only gonna be in Star Trek. There was no way this shit was happening. Am I right? Like,
well, we have tricorders now.
Yeah,
right.
Everybody walks around with a tricorder in their hand.
And the reason this couldn't happen is it was a heat issue. There was no way we could have anything with this much power without a fan and without a cord going. You know, and so even if we could get it to operate with the heat thing, I was like, well, we had no battery technology to make it run. It wasn't practical. And like you're telling me in a 20-year span, we went from impossible to, you know, my 2-year-old has my old LG G6. It could probably guide a missile from North Korea. Like it has that much computing power. And my baby that can't talk, it's like, well, that's what she listens to meditation music on when she goes to sleep. Come on.
That's crazy.
Do you know what a tricorder is, babe?
No, I don't. I was going to ask you. Like, we have tricorders in our hand.
You got to nerd out before you.
Yeah. You're familiar with Star Trek?
Yes.
Classic series.
Apparently not familiar enough.
You know, like when they flip out their little thing and it goes, and then they're like, talk to it, or
yes.
Yeah, that's
it?
That's a tricorder.
Oh, okay.
So we all have tricorders.
I thought it was going to be something like I was going to have to go check out Elon's stuff and be like, what did he come up with now?
I guarantee Elon has a legitimate tricorder that beams him places and does something. Yeah, it's not a cell phone.
I agree.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't realize you're 40.
Yeah.
So you're close to the same age.
Year. Yeah. So I had my baby girl last year, and she was born on the 1st of January. She was the first baby born in American Fork. And then day 2 is my birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a baby girl for my birthday. It was pretty good.
That's a pretty good one.
Irreplaceable.
There's a lot of things I want to pick your brain on then.
Yeah.
Like I'm right in the middle of this space lately where a lot of the stuff that we talk about on the podcast, lately at least, we're dealing with like what men can do better in the world, right? The way that they can be better fathers, better partners, just better all around men.
You mean places to expand? Not like how we're better than women, but like how we could be better. Because I'm like, that's a loaded question. I'm not answering that.
Most definitely not
gotta
how
go.
we're better than women.
I was like, the ice was a trick. I'm gonna answer this just blatantly. I'm like, well,
We're faster.
all the
we're
chefs are
stronger.
men. Okay, that's it. Statistically speaking, no, sorry.
No, how we can do better in general in all the ways that are being highlighted right now in the ways that we haven't done good, right?
Dude, even before you answer, before you finish that question, so many things of just out of the expectations that we have in this generation that our dads didn't have. We'll get into that.
So that's the first part I want to talk to you about, because having a brand new 2-year-old baby girl, you have the opportunity to raise her differently than, like, all of our girls are. They're not old, thank God. Actually,
How old are they?
20 and then 17. So
Okay.
we've got some 17-year-olds and then a 20-year-old.
Okay.
So they're past the point where they're listening to us.
Got it.
But your 2-year-old daughter
Well,
is...
mine is too. I'm screwed.
But you've got the opportunity to raise her seeing, feeling, thinking about men differently. But the bigger thing, because this all stemmed from like way back in, I think it was February, we went to the Vagina Monologues. So our oldest is in school in Salt Lake, and she participated in Vagina Monologues. So we went and we watched it, and it just fucked me up because it was like, there's very, very obvious signs of the way that men are shitty and that they have persecuted women and hurt women and done all of these things over the course of history and time, right? But then there's like all these really, really subtle ways where I wasn't really aware that maybe my actions had some similar effect, or the bigger scope of things of like, what am I really doing to make the world a better place and a safer place so that they can literally like walk around everyday life without worrying about being attacked or raped or
1 in 4.
yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
that
all
ratio.
of those things.
That ratio sucks.
So
That 1 in 4 is terrible. That should not be the way.
no, like it just
We wanted a
legitimately, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tons of things that I wasn't really thinking about, but then also like, fuck, what do I really do?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't have answers yet other than just a bunch of questions.
Oh, you haven't looked up the handbook. Yeah.
I keep
You can
telling
buy it
them
on
about
Amazon. Yeah. How to parent. And it's 100% right.
Yeah. And it's not even parenting. It's like, how
How
do
to
we
show up
How to
as a
human.
man.
how do we do a better job at being men in society for all the other women that exist, as well as the women that are in our lives that we love and care about, and then also all the other men.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got a son, I've got a son, right? Everything else that is influenced by this type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How can we do a better job?
Oh, man. First of all, it's an amazing question. Second of all, your guys' voices are very pleasant, so it's great.
Thank you.
If you didn't, I don't think I could get through this.
This is our podcasting voice. Our real voices sound terrible.
A
Yeah.
little bit like this.
They're switched. Like yours is high, hers is deep. No. Let's see. Okay, so I mean, so many great. I think there's just so many positive things that can come out of that statement alone. I don't even know how to unpack it, but I mean, if I could break it into pieces, without delving too deep in each one. So first of all, my core belief: E times A equals C. Energy times action equals creation. We've been taught that, what we think and how we feel and we act on affects our lives, right? What decisions we make and so on. So if I can always come from some space of love, I will. And some days that's courage, and some days it's inspiration. And other days, the best you're going to get out of me is patience. You know what I'm saying? And some days it's commitment. Some days it's, having to be honest or humble or authentic when you don't want to be. So I think that's just a good general way to live your life. That alone, you know, trying to not just preach that to my kids, but really try to live it, and also be authentic with them, and just be like, man, Dad doesn't feel loving today. Dad feels shitty. Dad's depressed. Dad feels like nothing's gonna make the world better, and then it's all gonna come to an end, and that I think a meteor should come down and crush us because the human race is a terrible thing, right? And then I allow myself to have that, but I don't act from it. That's the key. So it's like, as soon as I start blasting that shit on Facebook, well, now it's real, you know, because now I'm sharing that energy and I'm affecting other people's realities. So I allow myself to feel those things. I tell my kids it's okay to feel those things, but it's not okay to act on those things. Because once you put that energy in motion, it then starts to manifest as a real thing. You know, here, any example of any artist, right? Or divide up, you know, everything great we've ever done as a human species has always come from some space of love, right? Which I classify as those things I mentioned, you know, empowerment, courage, honor, trust, honesty, and so on. The list is pretty deep. And on the other side of that coin is everything fear. So like Gandhi said, you know, the opposite of love is not hate, it's fear. And that fear has many, many frequencies, just as many, right? Because we live in a polar universe, right? Binary. Mm-hmm. So look at everything, every atrocity every human has ever committed is done out of some level of fear. Whether it's hatred or impatience or judgment or apathy or ignorance, that list goes on. So really trying to remember that it's so simple to say E = C. But when I'm emotional, being an emotional creature, yeah, you get lost. You'll even make excuses. You'll say, well, I don't care. I don't want to create from love. I want to be angry. And I'm like, okay, I want to punch this table or something, or I want to tell the world how terrible my ex is. And I think our ego is like, yeah, but our higher self is like, you're going to make something you don't want. I don't know what it's going to be, but you're going to make a mess. Let's not even say good or bad. It's just like, yo, when you operate from this space, you're going to make something you have to clean up. It's either going to have to be an issue, an apology, or you're going to have to forgive yourself, or you're literally going to go to jail, right? Like you robbed a bank out of fear of lack, or you assaulted somebody because you allowed your anger to overcome your love or something. And those, you know, some of these repercussions on social media are very slim. And it's like, well, I just made somebody upset today. And some of those repercussions are like serious. I mean, watch the news, right? So there's one aspect. And I think that's the main thing, is learning to operate from a space of love, being okay when you're just feeling human, accepting it, but then being able to shift past it. And be like, okay, I'm going to literally put a lot of stuff on hold until I can get myself back into a space of love, or at least clarity. And my life, I guarantee anybody, you just compare all the stuff in your life, all the best stuff in your life, you trace it back. It's like your relationship with your kids or your wife or all your successes, I guarantee came from like courage and commitment and trust and empathy, you know? And then every stupid thing we've done and everything we've hurt somebody with or ourselves, self-sabotage or whatever, goes back to fear one way or another. It's very mathematical. But yet, because those are variables, it sort of adjusts to the reality of life where, you know, not everything is mathematical, you know?
Okay, so I'm going to play some devil's advocate stuff.
Let's do it.
Because I do a really good job.
Bring it in.
I just want to sit with that for a minute.
Yeah. Like, you're going to reflect. I'm telling you, you're going to wake up at 2 a.m. crying. You're going to be like, I should have never left my dog out there at the lake.
No, I agree. Like 100%. I think those are wonderful places to start from and to come from.
And disclaimer, it is not the easiest thing in the world.
No, well, yeah, it's not, right? All of these things that we're talking about aren't easy and like everyday stuff, right?
This is mastery shit. Right? That's self-mastery. Literally. Yeah. Like you start to look at Gandhi, Buddha, Confucius. That's what they were talking about. They did it in a more eloquent way. They didn't do it as a formula. But that's literally everybody said the same thing at the end of the day. Every master they just came from different regions, different languages, and different poetry. But at the end of the day, the core message was love people and don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really simplified. I like that. Love people and don't be an asshole. And then your daughter comes home from school when she's in 7th grade and somebody grabbed her butt, or she's got some friends that are starting to spread rumors about her that she's a slut, or God forbid, she's already starting to sext with some other boy or something like that. Then you're faced with
some boy crosses the line with her.
Exactly.
And my paternal instinct to murder him and paint the street with his blood has to be identified.
Yes.
I come face to face with my own, I'm not even going to say human self. I'm going to say the animal side of us.
So what can we do? Like, what can you do to first, like, what's big stuff that men in today's world can do so that shit never happens anymore to your daughter when she's in 7th grade? And then what's little stuff that you can do so that when things of that nature start to happen, you can help her cope, manage, and deal with it so that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's a really good question. I'm glad you're bringing it up because I think about that stuff. You know, and this is my first girl. My boy's 17. My other boy is 8, and my little girl is only 18 months, you know. Mm-hmm. So this is stuff I think about all the time. So immediately my lizard part of my brain wants to go into the protective side. First of all, you know your kids have different personalities, and some of them you have to teach them empowerment. They're just so sweet. And you have to be like, yo, this is how you set boundaries. And then there's the other ones who don't understand boundaries. You have to teach them compassion. And you have to be an example of that. Extremely difficult. Like, parenting is ridiculous. The fact that we live on the same planet, they should move us to the moon. When you become a parent, you should escalate to a different level of human, because being single, marriage alone is a huge challenge. Right? Having a business is a massive challenge, and having a kid is a massive challenge. And the things that God asks us to do, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, is ridiculous. Let's just put it there. So inside the realm that this is impossible, that the best we can do is like, I want to empower my daughter. I don't want to teach my kid how to kill my son, but I want to teach my daughter how to. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference. Like, I want my girl, not necessarily like assassinate somebody, but I want her to be able to like do jujitsu and like be able to like choke a dude out.
But is that the answer? Because you have to think about that dude is somebody else's 12-year-old little boy.
Correct. And
so that little boy in his head thinks that somehow that's right. So we have to look at the societal aspect of what's implanted in him and made him the way that he is. And granted, it could have been parenting, it could have been upbringing, but more likely it's peer pressure. More likely it's the shit that he's been, that he's seen and watched his whole life on TV and on YouTube, and because nobody's going to watch TV at that point in time anymore, right, on his phone and everything like that. So that's a little boy who, quote unquote,
again,
doesn't
I don't want
know
her to murder him. Like, just to be clear, that was just an expression. I want her to be able to defend herself.
I understand that.
Because the way that I look at it is this: Gandhi was nobody's bitch. Mm-hmm. Like, he taught peace, but he put up with no shit. And he was a prime example of how to love yourself and love your country and set your boundaries in a healthy way. Because a lot of times self-love is a very feminine idea. It's like, well, I'm just going to take a bath today and do some yoga and I'm going to shut off my phone. But it's like, self-love can also be like, you're not allowed to go past this boundary around me. You're not allowed to touch me without my permission. This is my body. And men and women alike. And men are sexually assaulted too by other men. But that to me is not a fear-based response. To me, being able to set up a boundary in a positive way and having the courage to uphold that with that energy and that attention is love. Now, if I'm like operating from a space of fear and I'm literally trying to get revenge on this person, or I want to hurt this person, or I enjoy hurting this person, that's a different energy. It's a whole different motivation. So I want to teach my girl that her body is hers, and nobody gets to touch her in a way that isn't appropriate without her permission. And how is she supposed to enforce that if a teacher isn't around, if a cop isn't around, if I'm not around? It's like, it's not okay to harm somebody to the point where it's like, it's not your job to take their life. But if you can debilitate the person in a peaceful manner, like in jiu-jitsu, they literally teach you how to just choke people out so they pass out. They don't die. It happens in MMA all the time. Yeah, I wouldn't teach that to my son, because he's already going past people's boundaries. So I'm trying to teach him compassion. My daughter, I want her to have that ability and never have to use it. For example, I want to teach her signs, body language, situations you don't put yourself into. Don't get into a car of somebody you don't understand, and trying to avoid those situations in the first place.
So this is the bigger picture.
Okay.
Our daughters shouldn't have to learn jiu-jitsu to go to school and defend themselves from the potential threat. Mm-hmm. The bigger picture is we shouldn't live in a world where this is even an issue.
Right, but we do.
So how do we change that? What can we do as men today?
Education.
To change that.
Yeah. Education.
Okay, so what's that education look like?
So education looks
First off, I'm like in no way, shape, or form attacking you.
No, please. These are because this is everything people are going to ask.
Yeah, I just like these questions. I like these ideas because this is all shit that we sit and think about and we talk about. And I don't have fucking answers for any of it.
Well, unfortunately, usually the answer is like buy a gun, and that's it.
Well, it's like,
but it's deeper than that.
I think education is a good surface level answer, but like, how do we really change the systemic issue that exists?
I'll share it with you. So mechanically, so what does that look like, right? Is that what you're saying? So I was part of a program I created. It's called Shift Before You Create. We literally taught that concept to kids, the A times A equals C. And it wasn't just about bullying. It was literally like, art comes from a space of love. Music comes from a space of love. If you look at any artist and you look at their blue period and their summer period, it's literally their emotions are showing up in their artwork, physical form. That's why they call them that, the blue and the summer period. So by teaching that to kids, and the reason why we had to do it formulaically is because you're not allowed to talk about karma in schools because it's a religious concept. You're not allowed to talk about yoga or chakras or clearing energy. But if you're talking about like, here is your mental emotional state in a positive and negative way, if you act on it, here are the potentiality of the consequences. So Gandhi also talked about how the three main heads of fear are, hatred, apathy, and ignorance. And so as much as I would love to be an expert on how to resolve hatred or apathy. I'm a naturally compassionate person, and I have people in my life that aren't. And it's just the way it is. It's like, I can't make an apple tree grow peaches type of thing, But one thing I personally have a talent for is education. And education really, the root word in Greek means to bring out from within. So in our world, we're taught that information comes from the outside. Mm-hmm. And so it does, information, right? But to be enlightened or to educate really is about remembering. So reminding people that at the end of the day, my own personal perspective is that every 99.999% people are born good, right? And I think God just peppers in the assholes to keep things interesting. Really, that's my true belief. Right? And like statistically, I'm telling you, like, and statistically speaking, if you look at like the prison, you look at our, all of our people, add up everybody in all of our prisons in the US, which we have, the highest incarceration rate in the whole world, times 5, and then take everybody who's like, say, committing violent crimes who haven't been caught. Okay. Now take all the people that are actively involved in war and add them up and double them. You still have 99.5% of the population living in general peace and harmony, who just want clean water, their families to be happy, and to be left the hell alone.
So then why are we teaching the world, every man, that they are a monster and that's their only outcome? You are going to be somebody, everything that you do is going to oppress women. And so why not just go with it. Why are you fighting? Our little boy.
That's the media narrative. Go ahead.
But that's what they're still getting. So like kind of the bigger
picture. That's the media
picture.
narrative. That's unfortunately, and this is just my opinion, but we've turned violence into entertainment. Literally, you go onto Netflix and 99.5% everything is somebody's blowing up or fighting evil, right? And then the other part is the media doesn't highlight all the beautiful things people do every day. They don't talk about like Craig helped he mowed his neighbor's lawn today. You know, do you know how many nonprofits are on the planet? 1 million.
Wow.
1 million organizations, not 1 million people. Billions of people involved in a million Yeah. You know, how many spiritual teachers have come out in the last 10 years?
Okay.
You know, professional, non-professional, excluding the fakes. Okay. But the people that truly come from their heart and they're here to help. Right. I mean, we have the indigo children. We've got the crystalline children. We've got the rainbow children. So the universe is literally breeding good into our situation right now, because it was like another theory is like, oh shit, they discovered the atom bomb. And like, did you notice like 15 years later, the hippies came out? Universe was like, yo, we got to balance this out. So like this huge wave of indigos and crystalline came in because we, at the first time in history, were able to destroy ourselves and everything on the planet. And the universe being the balancing system it is, it was like, we got to do something. So it brought these people in who didn't even need to be educated, mind you. They came in with this inherent belief that we're all one and that we should love each other. So some of those seeds got destroyed. No joke. The government was like, F this. It was like, stamp that flame out. It then put up a bunch of systems in place. So if there's ever another uprising of consciousness, they've already got gates to stop it all. Right? So this is why I don't march to the Capitol. This is why you'll never see me post anything political, regardless of whether my opinions or not. This is why I don't file, like I haven't registered to vote, right? So planned ignorance. But I have chosen to create businesses that are socially responsible, that can help change people's consciousness on a personal level. Because I don't have any power at the White House, right? And no argument on Facebook is going to change what the president thinks. Whoever's in power. I've never seen a tweet be like, I was going to let the Keystone Pipeline through, but I saw this argument on Facebook between two assholes I don't know, and I've changed my mind. So people on Facebook, stop fighting about politics. Unless you're going to go to the Capitol and march, and unless you're going to go file for legislature and lobby and actually be a difference, like, you're literally just feeding a fire that you can't put out. That's my personal. So my choice is to focus on what does work. Education works. Reminding people that at the end of the day, we're all living creatures. We're all basically loving creatures that have been dropped into an extremely hostile environment. And that this narrative, which if you put into shamanic terms, is a spell. There's literally a spell being cast, or spells being cast daily by media from people that have no interest in your happiness, right? And they're the smallest group, the 1%. Their voice is louder than yours because you don't get to be on CNN. I don't get to be on CNN. Craig doesn't. We deserve to be, but we're not. So there's a certain percentage of people who have more interest in your living in fear than your consciousness or your evolution or your love. They get all the attention, right? And then the other half are the people that are on cops right now, and they're being chased by a car, and there's a helicopter chasing him, and now we have an active shooter, and they just like rotate this bullshit and just keep feeding us all this stuff. Like, I literally just get off Facebook now because I don't see anything inspiring. I'm like me, Craig, and a couple of homies. And I'm just like, I'm going to post this today. I'm going to talk about this because it's not even coming from a space of inspiration at this point. I'm just like, all these terrible voices are being heard. If I don't at least speak mine, it's not fair. It's not fair to society for 99 people to spit poison about what party is in power, who's doing what, and for me to stay quiet. So, and I don't even address them. Instead of being like, hey, you guys, stop fighting. I'm like, do you know that you have the power to choose your reality today. And so I literally don't even give it energy, because Wayne Dyer was like, if anything you focus on expands, you know? So the easiest analogy, metaphor I can put it into in snowboarding terms is like when you go snowboarding through the forest. Do you guys ski or snowboard?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I'll tell you, one of the greatest joys in the world is riding through the trees, because there's no but people there. It's just you in the wild. And the scary part is, because it's usually, you only ride in powder. You can't ride it in hard pack, okay? And the problem with powder is the second you slow down, you'll sink, and you might be there for a while, like the rest of the season, right? Like they might find your body in the spring. So you have to keep your speed. You have to keep all the speed, but you're like dodging trees. And I'll tell you, it's not like the cartoons. They don't give. Hitting a tree is like hitting a telephone pole. And even if a part of you, like an elbow, or I've been stabbed one time. There was a tree and somebody had like cut like a part of the limb off, and it was a sharp, and it had literally hit me in the jaw and knocked me off my balance. And I was like laying there bleeding. Point is, it's like all of this negativity, or like every negative post and every ideas and every opinion is a tree, right? Okay. So it's easy to see those, but that's not the way to where you want to go. It's the path between it. So that's how, and that in snowboarding, when I was an instructor, you teach, don't look at your feet. It's like, you'll fall. Don't look, uphill, you're going downhill. When you're driving, you don't have to look at your feet, you look at the road. So don't look at the trees. I respect that they're there. I respect that everybody's having these problems. I respect that the world is supposedly crumbling, but the truth that has never changed is that the world's always on fire since the day it started. And that the greatest people that have made it through and survived and inspired other people always see the path, and they stay on it and they focus on that, and not the trees. And that's where like all the greatest philosophy in history comes from. That's why Confucius and Lao Tzu and Jesus and Buddha, that's what they keep coming out telling us. Continue, because we forget as a society. There's like, hey, remember, like love is the way, love is the way, love is the way. You forgot, love is the way. You blew up this country, that was stupid. Love is the answer. And because without compassion, we wouldn't take care of our children. And without that, we literally wouldn't have a species. So at the end of the day, compassion, love really, it's not a romantic idea. It's functional. It's a practical, pretty much a survival tool right now. That was a long tangent.
I think I'm liking all that, but at the end, like love is functional. It's like it's the practical of it. Like that just seems like, I don't think how it kind of sounded. It kind of sounds like you took love out of the equation in a sense of made it a business, a job, a sense, instead of letting it. Like I heard all of that, just like that very little bit at the end just kind of triggered. So I guess I'll look at what that means for me, because I do believe love is the answer. I do believe that love is how things go, but
that's just the Capricorn in me.
That's the Capricorn.
It's the left brain. The right brain, like that spiritual side of me, it gets weird. Everything I spoke about was completely from a space of logic. Would I raise my children logically? Would I raise my children in any other space other than love?
No, I agree with love.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm like. My desire, would my desire to ever raise my child inside a space of fear? Would I ever raise my child inside of a space of lack? Like, would I ever approach her and be like, yo, you have to know that there's not enough money in the world. Yo, you have to look out all the time. Or, don't trust people. Like, that's some bullshit that we download from our own hard drives onto their pristine hard drives. So I recognize that language inside myself, and I recognize that I can teach her, but I have to shift out of that fear-based language into, honey, you deserve to be respected.
I think that's why it triggered me.
Yeah.
Because I totally did that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you have to look out. You have to be aware.
Well, I mean,
out of love, but fear-based.
And see, because I love talking to you guys about this because I know you get it.
Yeah.
I know you're smart enough to get it. And I know that when I say something to you, you get it now. And it's not like a week from now. No. So like, as simple as this, I made a funny meme a couple years ago, and it was like a proceed with caution sign. Mm-hmm. And I crossed it out, and I put the word wisdom.
That's better.
Doesn't that feel better?
Yeah, that feels better.
Do you want to teach your children caution? Or do you want to teach them wisdom?
I definitely wish I would have taught them wisdom instead of caution.
Well, there's time. There's always time.
They're not listening anymore.
Yeah. No, but do you know what? They're always watching. They're always watching.
That's true. That's
I may never be able to speak my truth into her, but she'll always see how I operate. So, my dad, bless his heart, he's in heaven now. He was a hypocrite. Bottom line. He was like he was a Christian, and he was hateful. And that to me never made sense. I'm like, that's not Christ-like. It's very Christian. Like, you show up and you're super nice 1 hour a week, but then you come home and you yell at your kids, and you tell everybody how terrible they are.
Yeah.
There's nothing loving about that. If you leave my religion, you're going to go to hell. Well, that doesn't sound very loving, Agreed. So how it wasn't ever what he said to me. It's like I saw how he operated. And when I was like, he's teaching me to be patient, he's not being patient. He asked me to trust him. He doesn't trust me. He's asking me to be. Now I'm triggering. Like, compassion was not at the top of the list in our house. And at some point, you're going to become an adult, my child, and they're going to decide, am I going to continue how my parents operated, or am I going to create something new? So part of my manhood growing up, to answer your question, is learning that I can create something new. And your kids can make the same choice. Even if, some kids, doesn't matter what you tell them, they won't act like you. And that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. And then, what I say, for when they do go off the path, for someone who lived off path for most of his life, I got to say that's dharma, that the decisions in the life that they're going to live, that's their journey. And as much as I want to carve it out and I want you to follow my path and do the things that worked for me, I have found so many things that work for me that don't work for my kids. And that's where it's like, another thing Wayne Dyer said is like, they're not your kids, they're God's. And that's, their journey.
Well,
they're going to have these experiences no matter how much I want them to or not. And then I've got to trust this grand scheme of things. Just like somehow I survived alcoholism, drug use, homelessness, self-destruction. It's like the kid with braces. I had acne. I had glasses. I had terrible grades. I was a class clown. I had one friend. Nobody else liked me. I was drinking when I was 13. I was doing meth when I was 15. I was smoking. I smoked cigarettes from 15 to 25. Not to mention, like, how many hearts have I broken, So in my mind, for a lot of my life, I was a monster. I was a terrible person. And that contrast, just that one decision to be like, yo, I don't have to be this way anymore. I can't go back and change it. But, if I can forgive myself for this, which is work, it's daily work. Some days I got it and some days I don't. If I can let go of the guilt, I can let go of the shame, which are a fear. And I can move into the opposite of that. Like, I can move into honor and respect and possibilities, which in this universe, like, scientifically speaking, we live in infinite possibilities. quantum physics will tell you that every decision you make spawns multiple realities. So am I going to be a caveman? And again, to your question, Craig, am I going to operate as a caveman and just kind of muscle my way through reality? Or am I going to like consciously choose which tree will take me to which, reality? And so an advantage that I have is being a visionary. I literally see stuff from the end and then I work back to where I am. And then I want to say that I just follow the path, but that's not true. The truth is I do my best. And the whole time it's like I'm walking this tight line over water with crocodiles and people are shooting flaming arrows at me. And I somehow have to remember to stay in a space of love and courage through that. That's what it's like. Parenting and owning a business and actually trying to be an effective human being. It's so easy to just sit on my ass and watch Netflix and affect nothing. There's no courage needed. There's no energy. There's no, okay, let's get ready. Let's pump ourselves up. Let's go. Nothing, right? To be an ineffective human being. That if it's like, I don't even want to change the world, but I've been told I'm supposed to. So how am I going to come up with the courage to do this today? And forget all the guilt and the shame and stuff and step into my power. That's a different reality, right? Same body, same physical existence, but literally, and you could argue devil's advocate and be like, well, try all you want, you won't affect the world, right? But
Zoe, I got to slow you down.
Tell that to Martin Luther King.
I have some questions.
I doubt it.
I've gotten super good at recognizing both like within my own space and my own head, my own body and everything like that. And then also like seeing it in other people when they are coming from the intellectual place of who they are, right? Coming from their brain and from like their thought process and not from their body. And what I mean by that is not like what they're saying lacks authenticity or feeling, but really slowing down and actually being in their body and feeling first what their body's feeling as well as then what their emotions are feeling.
Sure.
And everything you just got done saying felt a lot like it was coming from your head and was very fast.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like slow you down the entire time and then just be like at the very beginning, you're like, yeah, it's super easy. Like love people and don't be an asshole. Like that's slow, right? That's just slowing way down and be like, oh yeah, it's really simple.
Okay.
I want to love people and I don't want to be an asshole. So I just want to like slow you down and get you into your body.
Thank you.
And into what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And,
well, to your credit, you're right. And I do that to keep from crying.
Yes.
I skip over it so I don't cry.
Okay. Which is super common, right? It's so incredibly like, it's a coping mechanism to disconnect from what we're feeling. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go faster. I'm going to think harder. I'm going to solve these things and I'm going to continue to speak. And you speak with such eloquence. You speak with such profoundness.
It's the ice. So thanks.
And your words have a lot of energy and a lot of weight to them. Mm-hmm. But after a while, I have a hard time feeling you. Mm-hmm. And I want to feel you. Mm-hmm. So it's like, slow down.
You gotta ask me simpler questions, man. Like,
it's true, yeah.
Like ranch or sriracha. It's a one.
Yeah,
I hear you. Thank you. I am open to coaching, so
well,
I like it. I know this about myself, by the way, but nobody stops me. So thank you.
What do you do to stop yourself?
I don't. I just crush a 3-hour class and go on with my life. Okay. And then the next day I go, that was too much.
So
it was too fast, and a lot of it is. The issue is, the reality I'm experiencing is my intellectual, my higher self, and then I've got my angels. And then of course we live in the internet, where anybody gets a hold of what you have to say, they're going to tear it apart. So yeah, if you want me to speak from my heart, it's not a long conversation. To speak from my heart is to let's say, to answer your question about my daughter, it's like show up as an honorable man so she looks for that in the world. That's what my heart says. My brain will tell you mechanically how it should work over a series of phases over time. But yeah.
Well, that's the stuff that because I've like that question that I posed back in the beginning of like, what can we do as men and how can we do a better job? It's one that I've sat with consistently for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. And there's some times where I set it down because I don't know what the fuck to do. And it's too hard and it's too big and I feel like I'm not doing enough.
But you seem like such a balanced guy. Like you understand your own masculine and feminine traits, right?
To some degree.
Okay.
But then...
Like, do you see yourself as a nurturer or as a more of an authoritarian?
I cover a huge spectrum of stuff.
Right.
So
which is to what I was talking about before. That's what's expected of us. That wasn't our dads could just come home, drink a beer, ignore their family, and it was socially acceptable. Now we're supposed to be the strong one and the nurturer.
Yeah, but it's not even supposed to. Like I love all of those aspects. Like I'm very, very nurturing and loving and caring and kind, and then I will defend you against all sorts of wonderful things with an immense amount of ferocity. Mm-hmm. And
that's that wolf.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it gets really simple when I think about it because I don't have big answers and I don't have some big, like outside of us talking about this on the podcast as much as possible and putting it out there so that other people are thinking about it, both men and women. And, but then it is like simple things of like recognizing, oh God, I don't remember. It's eluding me now. But there's recognition of things. Oh, I was watching some stupid show with the boy, GT or something. It's one of those he's super car kid, right? So he loves all the cars.
I watched that show.
Yeah, where it's the three British guys and they each get their own whatever souped up car is.
Roast each other the whole time.
Yeah.
They're great.
And there's one guy who's like super stereotypical, I'm assuming old white British guy. And they were ganging up on the other guy because he wanted to go to a spa and relax and eat vegan food. And they're like looking at it like the shitty lettuce and there's no meat. And then they were like insulting him and minimizing him and like also like basically calling him a woman and things like that. And I'm sitting there watching that and I'm like, is this show from like 1980 or something? And I'm like, no, this fucking thing was produced like last year. This is a brand new fucking show. Now? Not only is it not acceptable now, but I'm like sitting there. It was just such a stark realization of my 13-year-old son taking in all of that, right? And even subconsciously taking in all of that on some stupid asinine fucking show about cars that go fast.
Yeah, for me, it's been like a lot of the time, it's like when either of my sons and I listen to rap, because I grew up in the hip hop era. And periodically I stop them, I turn the music off and I'm like, this isn't real, right? And I have that man to man, I talk with them. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, real people don't live like this. Real people don't make money this way. They don't treat women this way. They don't speak this way. And if they do, they're in jail. So I want you to recognize that this is a form of entertainment and this is nothing to be emulated. Are we cool? And if it's like, well, I want to be that way. And I'm like, well, we're not listening to it right now then. Or, my son's very conscious. He's like, yeah, I get it, Dad. And I luckily I see that in his day-to-day behavior. But when, we will see things like people on a lot of YouTubers, they overact and overreact to things. It's very staged. And then you start to see our 8-year-old do that. It's like, yo, we just we don't cut YouTube out, but it's like, yo, you can only have an hour a day. And here's a list of the things you can watch. And it has to be in the living room. And he doesn't have a screen in his room. And so, yeah, it's definitely an issue. But some parents, they're not like us. They're like, here's a tablet, bye, and they just go golf. or camp or leave the screen
or they
to parent.
Or they go to their tablet in their room.
Right, which I have to be conscious of, right? Because I'm not going to try to be a hypocrite like my pops. I can't be like, well, you can't be on a screen, but I'm on 16 hours a day.
I'm super hypocritical. I will sit here and yell at him to go put his phone away and then hurry up and get on my phone and look at my fucking phone while he's sitting there and be like, what? Do something.
Are you editing audio too?
Sometimes it's like legit at work, and then it's not all the time. I have plenty of time where
that's an easy excuse too. You're like, well, you're on your computer. Well, I'm working.
Yeah, which is common.
That's usually before he wakes up, though. Like you do a lot of that, and then you do. Yeah, you have a serious. I think that's why you're so strongly opposed to the screen time as well.
Because I see how fucking shitty it is.
Yeah,
and then what it does to your brain.
And then I don't know, like maybe I need to be harsher on it because there's times I look at you like.
Did you see or hear recently, like Instagram is changing up and they're testing it out, I think in Australia or the UK, but they're getting rid of likes. So
no, I'm not on social media enough to catch that.
Well, if you were, then you would know. They're getting rid of likes. So you post a picture or something like that, and it just won't have likes. You'll be able
because of the ego.
Yeah, like you'll be able to see who liked it and how many likes that picture has, but the person who follows you or your feed won't show other people's likes.
Interesting.
So they're getting rid of likes, and I think they may be getting rid of followers as well, so you can't see how many followers somebody has. The person can, but it's just not public
that's
information.
Fucking brilliant.
I think so too.
There's way too much serotonin triggering dopamine going on. Mm-hmm. Like at least, in our era when like Super NES and stuff was a thing, it was just like they were just trying to make a game that people liked. Now they're like, how do we engineer this to make this addictive as possible? Mm-hmm. Like 80 hours of content, downloadable content. You can buy this and upgrade that. When you do this, like a video game I play Titanfall. And every time you take somebody out, a ching goes off, like money. It goes ching, and their name comes up. And I can hear the neurons in my brain like dopamine. Like, you have accomplished something. And that's actually proven that when you accomplish something, that you get a little dose of that. So there's literally the biological dimension to what you're talking about. That's super harmful to be like, yo, I got this many followers and this many likes. And I'll go back and be like, that was a good post. That should have 100 likes on it. Why doesn't it? I feel like I'm surprised that they're actually like compassionate. I don't know what the word is, but thoughtful enough to like take that away.
It's all money. It has zero to do with compassion or thought. It's all fucking money.
Why do you say that?
Like, are they making less or more?
Well, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has, think about how culture is going and where it's headed and everything that's coming into our purview, right? So it's just simply those big tech companies, because Instagram is just owned and operated by Facebook. So it's just simply them looking at how we can tailor this to our market even more so that they'll like it even more. That's it.
What? Maybe it's a know better, do better thing.
Baby, I would love to think it is.
Well, what if
That's the problem, is it's not. I was thinking about this earlier in the conversation. I'm going to go on a rant, sweetheart.
Okay.
So
I
get your
strap in. I'm putting on my shin guards and getting comfy.
Earlier when you were talking about like government and the bigger picture of the way society and media and everything is putting.
Do you like my conspiracy theory point of view?
Yes, I do to some extent.
Okay,
but I actually thought about this recently. I think that is like what we frame that as, whether it's a government conspiracy or aliens or the media putting out information and controlling what information we see and we don't see and all those type of things that take place. I think it's all just like mob mentality. And when you look at individual people, like people that are in power or that are in charge, if we just look at them as the individual person, 100% they come home and like sit on their couch and worry about money and their family, and they have to cut their grass or pay whoever it is that's cutting the grass this week or whatever the case may be. On an individual basis, individual people are super, super good. And then when you get into a mob, and the mob is going this direction, you're like, well, fuck, we got to go.
How about when your mob are a bunch of senators?
Or anything, because like the whole idea behind mob mentality is what takes place. I mean, it's self-explanatory. It's the mentality of a mob that takes place. And we see it all the time, whether it's
there's
at
a
some
biological
sort of
component to that. They literally, they can show you that in the brain activity. It switches.
Yes.
It changes. We become bees. Like we just become some of this weird hive.
It's a survival instinct. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's strictly survival, because we're only concerned about our own survival, because we have to be accepted and we have to be a part of this group that we are currently in,
or be outcast,
or we don't survive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we go
you're not part
way
of
back to like when we were living in small tribes, if you weren't part of the group and went along with what the group did, guess what? You were left to survive on your own, which meant you were going to die.
Which now it's like, I might make it, I can, well, now we literally choose that, right? We go off grid. Mm-hmm. But back then it was like you versus every wolf and bear
you die. You don't
3
survive.
square miles.
That's why we
You'll
started
make it 10 minutes.
That's why we are tribal people, in order to survive.
I agree with this 100%.
So
and part of moving into the new reality that we get to create and our children get to create is identifying, being okay with this, embracing that this is part of us. That's the lizard brain. That's the mammalian part. It's the part that fear literally kept us alive for thousands of years. And it's like, we have to start recognizing that, like, wolves won't drag our children out of a teepee now, or, the neighboring tribe. My neighbor's just going to come over and kill me and take all my shit. Like, those were real fears for a very long time. And that was literally written into our DNA. And now we don't have a lot of those. So it's like our brain's still running that program. But now it's like, well, the active shooter, or this party or that religion or this race of people. Like, it's almost like our brains are filling in the blanks because we don't have that fear quota anymore. And media is not helping, and mob mentality isn't helping.
So what I want to do is I want to be cognitive and aware of when my brain is slipping into mob mentality, because it's not just when you have like a march on the Capitol and something takes place. It's not just when a huge group of people. You can experience it in a very, very small group of people.
Wouldn't you consider that an amazing, powerful tool, though, of consciousness?
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Recognizing when you're stepping into mob mentality.
Because think about, like, I'm sure you grew up, like I was telling Steph the story the other day about, like, we used to play Smear the Queer when we were growing up, right? Obviously we don't play that anymore. That's not a game,
not
whatever.
Cool.
We don't play a game called Smear the Queer. But I remember, like, isolating specific kids and attacking them. And
I was that kid.
Right? And
I've been on both sides.
But I remember being like, why are we doing this? We shouldn't be. Oh, well, we're fucking doing this. And making sure that kid got the ball.
Don't be the loser out. That's not going to back us up.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And so that's an example of what it's like when you're like 12 or 13 years old. But I still experience that in some way, shape, or form as an adult, where things are being said or done, or even just like in the flow of conversation sometimes in a small group of people, where I'm just like, oh, I don't really like this. I don't want to go along with this. I can either choose to say something and then be isolated and ostracized, and then it kicks in all of those like fight or flight of like, I want to be a part of this group because otherwise I'll be an outcast and I won't be accepted and I won't be loved. Or I can just go along with it. Mm-hmm. So we experience that quote unquote mob mentality in a lot of different ways. We also do it like in our family structures, right? And everything like that. Like we go and have family Christmas, and it's all the extended family. And I don't really like it.
Obligatory holiday, right? Number 7.
Like you get into that state of mind and you have to conform in order to, survive the next 4 or 5 hours. And sometimes it's okay and whatnot. But I think it's important to recognize.
Sometimes there's small sacrifices, and sometimes it's like questioning your integrity. And I think those are different battles you have to choose.
Yes. And I think it's important, like, as I'm talking about it, I'm like, I really want to bring awareness to myself of when my brain and my butt, not necessarily my brain, but when I feel it, because I know what the feeling is.
Do you have like a tool or like a body, like a sort of response? Like, do you do something? Do you like snap a rubber band? Like, what would you do?
What I have done is practice connecting to my physical and emotional body for the past 3 years.
Cool.
So that's what I've done. So I'm
And
fucking
how does
good at
that
it
look
now.
and feel to you? Like for me, being present is like I look at the ceiling, I look at the floor, I breathe in, I breathe out, and then I have this joke. It's from Madagascar, the movie. Have you guys seen that? Mm-hmm. And you know, when they're in the plane, they're having that meeting, and they're like, "Okay, so we're going to talk about the fusa." And then what does everybody do? Fusa. The fusa, the fusa, and they're screaming, rah, rah, rah. And he's like, "People, people, people, we're not being attacked at this very instant." And they're like, "Oh," and like that's a perfect representation of recognizing your own personal fear state and then coming into presentness and being like, this isn't happening right now. My mind wants to make me believe it's like a hologram that it puts you into, and then in Toltec shamanism we would call that breaking a spell. And spells are woven through mistruth and they're broken through truth. You know, so like being led to believe that you're a certain way, like you can't sing. And you can sing, but like somebody told you couldn't, you made it a belief, you created the spell, you're now bound by it until somebody shows you the truth and you're like, oh yeah, I can. And now the spell's broken. Mm-hmm. So that's what, you know, metaphysically we would say you're doing. So that's my tool. Like how would it look and feel for you to become present? And once you recognize that you're in a spell.
I always just go through my body. So oftentimes, it's just a constant check-in with my physical body, and usually, undoubtedly, I feel tension somewhere.
Is this an emotion? Does this feel, or do you visualize?
No,
I'm very clear cognizant.
It's a very physical, like it's literally, I can feel my arms are tense right now. I can feel my muscles in my arms are tight and tense. So then I bring awareness to that physical part of my body. I relax it. And then I can move to a different part and see where more tension may be, or more tightness or discomfort. And
I'm like doing this while you're explaining it.
Yeah.
This is a cool tool.
That is the path for me to get into the emotional side of what's taking place, is through my physical body. So it's just a constant, not like always 100% of the time, you know, what am I feeling? What am I feeling?
Do you do this in the ice?
We do it in the ice.
Is it similar, or is that a different process?
No, it's very similar. In the ice, when my brain finally quiets from the fuck.
Dude, you could literally tie that in then to like a tool, you know, like Wim Hof's dope, but like there's got to be a medical side to this, yo, right? Like there's got to be a shamanic spiritual attachment.
The matote.
Yeah, I mean, like that is like maybe, you know, I don't know, when you're experiencing pain in life, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, it's like sometimes we're so numb to it because it's such a constant now. I'm sure you're familiar with this idea, but like, you know, a lot of people teach how, you know, the fight or flight program and all the chemicals and responses, electrical responses in our brain that come with that used to be used very rarely. Like we'd run at something when we were caveman, or we'd run from something and it was temporary. And then, you know, our body would flush the adrenaline. But now it's like stress is this drip, 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 drip feed. And it's like over time, it's like the spell is so subtle, you don't realize you're in it until you start, you know, you get in the ice, or you do a meditation, or you get into yoga, and then you're like conscious of your body. You're all of a sudden you're in it. And you're like, whoa. Here I am thinking I'm walking around enlightened and all my shit is out of whack. This is busted, that's busted.
So what is out of those three, fight, flight, or freeze, what is the one that you most commonly walk around in?
I'm searching like for my most authentic answer would be my first one. So I would say at age 40, freeze. Because there's a couple components, but the main one being like, I truly believe we're powerful. And it's like, I know that if I touch something, it's going to move. And I don't know if I'm ready for those consequences. So it's like, don't touch anything. Don't do anything. Don't make any moves. Don't affect the world. Don't educate people. Don't help people. Don't open your doors. Don't close your doors. Don't be visible. Don't be invisible. Just try to be a smoke thing. And nobody will send you shitty messages on the internet, and your kids will think you're sane, and society will, I'll still maintain this idea that I'm like this happy, successful CEO. Just don't touch shit, and then the second I step out of that, if I was an ineffectual human being, I could push mountains all day and they're not going to move. But I learned from a spiritual space how powerful I am, not in the external world, but in my internal world. And then when I start tinkering with stuff moves, and I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for the consequences. And when I was younger, I used to fight everything, and it worked for me. It worked for me because I was just, at the time, it was my very masculine warrior was just like, I literally would growl. I'd be like, rah, and then I'd jump off a cliff, or I'd eat something really spicy, or I'd go talk to a girl that I was too afraid to talk to. So astrology speaking, I'm a Capricorn, Libra ascendant, Pisces moon, and that Pisces part of me wants to run. And it's not because I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me. I'm afraid to hurt people. And so that causes me to freeze. And the Pisces wants to run, and because it knows, it's like, dude, you're going to turn into the Hulk, and you're going to wreck a bunch of shit, and you're going to pass out. You're going to wake up and you're going to be like, what did I do? So there's 8 types of fear for you, to be honest.
I love you, baby.
I love you too. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm glad you guys are getting closer.
No, I think we got to wrap it up.
No.
Yeah, we do.
Are you going to, is that the Pisces in you? Right there. Okay.
No, I agree.
No.
I think it's very common for a lot of people, and I think it's really common for men to be in that free state. And
it's not just common for men.
It's not just common for
I'm
people.
A freezer.
Yeah. It's what I find myself in.
Hold.
It's what I find myself in most of the time. It's the frozen state.
What's wrong with me?
Give me your opinion on this, but I really feel like, as opposed to some people are to it, I feel like women being empowered is women finding the imbalance right now from the feminine to the masculine. And I feel like men learning to be compassionate and understanding. Like, have you ever heard of men do inner work, like in the last, 100 years? Maybe, a couple philosophers or great men, but the common man wouldn't put himself through, like, say, impact training or landmark or
Brave Men Day.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, it's almost like, that, and then just like the explosion of gay and trans people, so for the record, like some of the coolest, funniest people I know are gay or trans. And do I choose to do that with my life? No, but I don't give a shit what you are. I don't care if you think you're a tree. I don't care if you want to marry a yellow dog. That's great. That's your choice. It affects me not at all. So, and it doesn't affect my rights, and if people want to say, well, it's going to affect the population. Well, we're overpopulating. So please, more gays, just come to the table. My point being, like, I feel like as hard and as weird as things are getting, I just feel like the universe is again trying to balance itself out. And that's why there's all this masculine, feminine getting sort of thrown into a blender, where it was up until now was very clear. And it's like in Native American culture, there were like 5 genders. And they looked at a shaman would typically be homosexual because they believed they had both spirits. And that's how they were more qualified to give advice, because they weren't just strictly male or female. They didn't have one approach. They had both. So that's my opinion on that. I feel like men having the courage, which is funny, which is a masculine trait, is a form of love. Angels have it. Men having the courage to be nurturing and vulnerable and embrace their feminine side without it affecting their manhood. Like realizing that feminine and masculine energy, as in like the feminine and masculine, like divine feminine, divine masculine is in every one of us. Regardless of our sexual orientation, it's not even about sex or gender. It's literally yin and yang. So men having the courage to be things like vulnerable and authentic and soft and things, I feel like that is really the key to moving forward. Based on results, the last 2,000 years of war have proven not to work. And so maybe it got us through a really hard time. Maybe religion was a really good bridge. Organized religion was a really good bridge from caveman till now. But we have a whole new generation of kids and a whole new way of thinking moving forward that this is going to become outdated. It's just like Windows 97. It worked for that year. But now we're going into a whole new realm that no book ever prepared us for. There's nowhere in any book does it say, well, this is what you do if you have atomic weapons. This is what you do when the information comes, information age. This is what you do when you're posed with if you want to become a cyborg or not and hook your brain up to the internet. Like nobody prepared us for that, you know? So things like love, things like patience, things like acceptance, things like flow, I feel like are going to be the best possible way forward. If I were to choose, you know, acceptance versus fight, that would be my answer.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely,
I'll try
baby.
and make
You
it
can
quick.
say more than one thing.
I was going to say one thing. Based off of your, like, what can we as men do? Because there's so much of that drive. I'm just going to make it quick. It's okay. I'm not going to go back an hour ago. But got to do more, got to do more, got to do more. Kind of that mentality that, you know, go, got to achieve more.
Yeah.
Never enough, never
Here's
enough.
a problem.
Kind of
We got to fix it.
But just a little bit of awareness and kind of go with that. Was so said about be an honorable man, so she knows what to look for. Be an honorable man, so not only does she know what to look for, but he knows how to be, how to treat himself, how to treat others. And you're talking about the mob mentality. And, well, I don't want to do this, but they're doing this, so I'll go with it. We have a 13-year-old who will go along with his friends. He'll do some crazy stuff. But when it comes to something honorable, he just had a situation with his friend who he feels very close to this friend. This is his friend. They're homies. They're homies. His friend behaved in a way that Asher did not think was okay, acceptable to another girl. And Asher very much did not go with his friend's acceptance. He stepped up, and he stepped up hardcore. His friend didn't quite know how to handle it. Asher stepped up so much to show. So he set his boundary, right? He set
in a very
his
loving
boundary.
and courageous way, yeah?
It was love based, but it did not come out loving.
Right.
He
sometimes I think the execution takes practice.
Execution definitely takes practice, but what he did not need practice on was not to be afraid of not going with the flow, to being one of the guys. So he said, this is not okay. And this isn't going to progress anymore beyond this point right here. This stops now.
And doesn't that just give you hope for the future?
Oh, absolutely.
Like all of the scary things, you're just like, okay, yeah, like this is, you know, I'm no approve of this and this, but like it really matters. Mm-hmm. That's when it really mattered. And your kid stepped up. Like that's huge.
That is huge.
That's an indication of how he's being raised, which wolf is being fed, right?
Yeah.
You know?
So
good job.
Way
to go. Props. And parents don't get enough appreciation. They don't get enough recognition. They don't get enough time to themselves. They don't get enough self-care. They don't get enough dates. They don't get enough unless they choose it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm totally a culprit. You know, I'm definitely not preaching this at all. You can see it. You can see it in your body. You can feel it when you're just like, I'm not being taken care of, you know? So as much as our children are a priority, it's like, yo, I got to fit in there somewhere. I got to be at least in the top 3.
Right.
Please. I can't be at 10 and like, well, I don't have time to do 8 things today. So I don't even get on the list. And Brindley and I've felt that in our conversations and in our lives, that when we stop taking care of ourselves, like we got nothing for everybody.
Yeah.
What do you want to throw out, Zoe? What's the best way for people to find you? Find you guys' stuff?
So you can literally just throw a rock, you know, Zoe the Peacemaker on Google. You can look up Vibe Bottle. Our 5th birthday is coming up next week. So 5 years, yeah.
Next week?
Next week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, you know, we started in our basement. Now we're in like 100 stores. We're talking to a company in Canada. They have 500 stores. And then these guys in Norway, they have 200. And then we're going to start introducing decals. This is my love language, you know, like sharing symbols that empower and remind. And also secretly, I'm trying to reprogram the world's water. That's my other, you got to educate, but then there's that, like, I call it passive enlightenment. If you could just kind of throw these symbols into people's consciousness, and it's not like you're preaching, and they're just like, yo, that's cool. That literally can take people into a new dimension without having to, put hands on or make them come to your class or buy your book. Like that's sort of like my shotgun blast of, trying to do something good before, the world falls into darkness,
Is it just vibebottle.com?
Vibebottle.com. And then I have a new project coming out. I came from the t-shirt world, so I'm creating a new brand called Lucid. I love the idea of lucidity because it's about clarity. And it's like, it's not about right or wrong. It's like, I just want to be clear about where I'm at. And I got a really dope, like, elephant head logo made out of sacred geometry that I worked on. And my son, I'm doing it with my son. So, how some people build soapbox racers with their kids or go fishing. We're building a website and starting a new brand. Under that brand, I'll still be able to bring in other people's stuff, like because it's Lucid distribution to be complete. And that's really just kind of more of a passion project. I don't have any like expectations for it. It's just another creative outlet. I'm also, after a hiatus of about 2 or 3 years of not speaking, not teaching, not doing any podcasts, anything, been very much focused in just getting Vibe Bottle up and running to this point. I'm coming back into the circuit, and I'm contemplating touring. I don't know, but if I do, I'm literally just gonna take my stuff and get in my car and call any of the stores, 100 stores that we're in, and be like, yo, I'm coming to do a class. So
awesome, man.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
Cried twice today.
It's a good podcast.
Blame you. And then you get into the ice bath, and then Doctor Strange style, it knocks your soul out of your body for a minute. Everything great we've ever done as a human species has always come from some space of love. When you become a parent, you should escalate to a different level of human. E times A equals C. Energy times action equals creation. Show up as an honorable man, so she looks for that in the world. That's what my heart says.